Today is part two of our look 5 or 10 years in the future about where we think Cardano will be. So make sure you've still got on your battle shirts and put on those moon helmets. Get ready. Let's go. I'm super excited to announce I am officially back to civilization. Today is the day I will have returned from being in the tent in the beautiful place with no internet access. So I will definitely be down in the comments today. Feel free to resume our normal discussions down there. And now let's go directly into part two. So Charles could easily just send John O'Connor, or at this point, 5 or 10 years, it'll probably be guys who work for John O'Connor. If he's still with IOHK, he could easily send guys like that around to the entire developing world and just duplicate what John O'Connor's managed to accomplish in Ethiopia and Tanzania. We've already got a template. Like IOHK and Cardano have built out a template to do exactly that in a lot of different countries. And I think if the experiments in Ethiopia, Tanzania, if they're successful, a lot of countries are going to want in on this, right? If this revolutionizes Ethiopia's educational system and it's easy for the countries to do, a lot of countries might want in on this, just like a lot of countries in the developing world were able to leapfrog the desktop phase and go directly to everybody having a cell phone, a large chunk of which can access the internet. They're going to want to do exactly the same thing. So we might see that kind of around the globe. What will the Cardano Foundation doing? I think it's kind of inevitable. The Cardano Foundation is going to have to become bigger and just do more and more and more, right? The community building piece is going to have to get bigger and bigger. And we all know there's the looming monster on the bed of regulation. And, my guess is if it starts looking like we might be getting a lot more regulation in the crypto space in general, you're going to see entities like IOHK sort of taking a step back from the public profile stuff and high profile public stuff, and the Zug Valley based foundations having to do a little bit more of the work at the steering wheel, because that's what makes the most sense for regulatory securities compliance. So we might see that. But I think most importantly, the thing that the reason why we have to wear the moon helmets today during this discussion is that the amount of adoption we see between now and then, I mean, this thing looks like we've got everything in the world going for us, right? Ethereum is broken. Binance is centralized. So the only two smart contract platforms in our way, in between us and that number two spot on CMC, have massive problems. In 5 to 10 years, I think it's safe to say that Ethereum 2.0 will have happened. But when you're building code on top of bad code, right? A house built on a glass foundation, I can't help but think they're going to have more and more problems in Ethereum, and that other players are going to take massive amounts of their product share. So I think Cardano is going to see massive growth and adoption. It's going to become, my guess is that Cardano becomes sort of the preeminent crypto, and it's going to become more and more apparent that Bitcoin, while it is the first and the original, has very limited functionality compared to a project like Cardano. And also its competitors. And by then, I think we're going to see very strong competitors who maybe are not even in the top 10, maybe not even in the top 20 right now. I personally, when I think about competitors for Cardano, I don't think about BNB. I don't think about Ethereum. I think about Avalanche with their novel consensus protocol, the Avalanche protocol. It's not proof of stake exactly. It's something very different. And if you want to get scared, go watch Emin Gun Sirer, Cornell professor, watch his presentation of the Avalanche protocol. Also, check out his Twitter. That guy might know more. When I think about guys who know a lot about crypto, maybe the most out of anybody, I think about Charles Hoskinson and I think about Emin Gün Sirer and a handful of other people. Then you've got Algorand. Silvio Macaulay is the father of modern cryptography. And it seems like on the tech side, they've done everything right with Algorand. I think those will be the big competitors over the next, like several years. Who knows? 10 years in crypto is way too far out to think, in terms of like who will be the preeminent projects. It's way too far because there's going to be brand new projects in between now and then. And who knows? They may have outmoded, all of the current players. We don't know. It's too far to think about competitors that far out. But I think there are going to be some very strong competitors. The tech's going to be way better. The tech is going to have to get much, much better. We're going to have to be orders of magnitude better because there's going to be so much adoption, in my opinion. I think there's going to be so much adoption of crypto in between now and then, whether we're talking a 5-year time scale, even 10 years is like mind-blowing amount of adoption, in my opinion. But 10 years from now, there's going to be so much adoption that the tech is going to have to get mind-blowingly better. I mean, you go to the Cardano Foundation website, and the very first thing they have on the website is Cody as a payment gateway provider for Cardano. And I think that's because they're thinking the same thing we are. The payment functionality of cryptos is going to be so important, and if we get the amount of adoption it looks like we're going to need things like multi-dag structures like Cody has. We've covered that in a whole video. Go back and watch that video if you want to understand how DAGs work. We have multiple videos actually explaining the DAG thing, kind of a very shallow intro and then a deeper, more advanced discussion of the topic, which is all still very comprehensible. You don't need to be any kind of crypto scientist to understand those discussions. But we're going to need these really, really sound consensus protocols like Cardano has. And then on the payment, at the tip of the spear, on the payment side, we're going to need these like multi-dag structures. We're going to need all the technology just to handle the bandwidth involved in all the adoption. I mean, does anybody really think our current ACH type system, does anybody think this is going to be the way it's going to work? Like decentralization is not going to win right now. Like the thought of toppling Visa is unthinkable just because Ethereum can't even scale to handle the tiny amount of DeFi that's happening right now. But once we have these kinds of things in place, more scalable base protocols like Cardano, these kinds of like very, very high throughput structures like the Cody DAG to handle the payment side, it's going to start getting very thinkable, right? It's like, there's so many analogies, but if you go back to the start of the internet days, it truly was unthinkable that email would topple, the USPS in terms of, sending messages back and forth. It was unthinkable. And now it's unthinkable that it wouldn't have happened. I think it's going to be the same way with crypto. We're going to see this over the next decade. We're going to go through the same kind of gigantic reversal in thinking right now. Let's face it, for the masses, blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies are novelties and speculative assets. But I believe over the next 10 years, we're going to see a wholesale reversal of that. And it truly is going to become the base architecture for exchange of value and a lot of other things. And with that, I will see you tomorrow. Glad to be back.